Dawson. And we are going to be talking deeper about these trapped emotions that are in us, and we don't even know that they're in us. So I need for you guys to start the process. You know, the algorithms of the social media are gobbling up the classroom. And so it is up to you. Text people. You can watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can listen to us later on and watch us later on podcasts and also BitChute later on. But now it's your time to tag, to make sure that people know that we are working on some really important information that needs to be out there. Please do your part. And so I'm going to start the recording. Here we go. Today we have my friend, Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. I absolutely love how she has so many different tools to dive in and pull out all this past trauma that keeps running and ruining sometimes our life. So if you're ready, we are going to learn how to release this once and for all. So fasten your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. Hey, it's time to dance. And when you're dancing, you're in the moment. Nothing else matters. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, I've been diving deeper into emotions trapped into our bodies. We've done classes with Dr. Mona Lisa Schultz. We've done classes with Bradley Nelson. We've done classes with Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. We've done classes with a lot of people that are telling us the same thing. Dr. Lorraine Day, 99% of all disease begins in the heart. But how does it get there? Where does it come from? Well, as you know, I was blown away with the last session that I had with Dr. Bradley Nelson, and I immediately contacted my friend, Dr. Dawson, Michelle LaMasa-Dawson, and I said, do you know this stuff? Do you know this guy? Is this for real? And so she, of course, has taken many courses on this. And I said, but she is a recall healing expert, where you deal with the emotions so that you can release it. But today we're going to talk about a different kind. We're just going to talk about different ways. Maybe one of these ways will resonate with you. And once and for all, you will get rid of these trapped emotions. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I'm so grateful that Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson is here to do just that. Welcome, Michelle. Dr. Michelle, how are you?
I'm great, Lily. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And it's true. It's so fun to be able to have a friendship and then deepen our classroom with these tools to help people. So I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And for those of you who have questions, if we can break during the session of the class, we'll ask questions. But if we don't, we do this, we ask the questions at the end when we do the teacher's pet corner. So if you stick around, we'll read your question, and Dr. Michelle has some extra time that we can work afterwards as well. So today we are going to be talking about going deeper. Now, Dr. Michelle, as you know, I reached out to you and I said I was blown away with Dr. Bradley Nelson. Now, in my, I do the 4 questions of responsibility. We talk about, Ho'oponopono and releasing things. And I learned that from you. You are such you've got so many different tools that you use to help your clients release their past trauma. But what are some of these tools and how did you find them?
Grace of God.
Okay, there we go. That's all you need to say.
Done.
We're done. Okay, see ya. So tell us more about your journey and your accreditations.
Absolutely. For sure. So honestly, I don't often talk about the foundation that I was given with my parents. And my parents were 3rd order Salesians, and this is a lay group in the Catholic Church, and they're committed to the youth. And so my parents, they were involved in Marriage Encounter, and then they started doing Youth Encounter. And so I became a team leader, and I started, really, it was like, when I look at it, how much God's hand has been in my life and guided me. And I always knew that I was going to get a doctorate. To be honest with you, I have no idea how that happened other than the grace of God, because in high school, I was a mediocre student. And what I began to understand, this was really my drive. I thought I was going to be a PhD in psychology, and I really enjoyed this teamwork and these retreats that I would do, and how people would transform. They would process things, and they would talk about the things that were really challenging. So for me, that's really when God was planting seeds in my own life. And so I ended up, in school and getting a bachelor's degree in social work, and then, moving into, just life circumstances and what it did. And I thought that it was a mistake, that here I was teaching at a Catholic school, and I was teaching religion, and people are like, oh, you're teaching religion, because I was not, this really prim and proper kind of gal. And so it's super interesting. And then I was a youth minister, I was a campus minister, and it just sort of led me deeper and deeper. And I see so many times of how all of it does. And I did need to have that master's in religious studies, because it really deepened my own understanding, my spirituality, especially my commitment to helping young people. And I love working with teenagers, and I love now working with mamas and families, because I help them. I get to help them help their kids. And so when I went to get first a master's in psychology, I realized that there's great theories, but so many people that I knew that went to therapy for 20, 30, 40 years, their life was the same, basically. They were still unhappy. They were still, sort of doing their thing. And so it really drove me to find more, to deepen my understanding through my walk in marriages that were challenging, and that deepened me. And then ultimately understanding, theory without connecting the head to the heart is the longest journey, right? And so theory is great, but it's theory and practice. That's what we know that works. So when I was looking for a PhD, I found Saybrook, and Saybrook had this mind-body medicine program, and it had all these amazing tools, and it talked about these core things that I knew that were important. And I had already known about recall healing and was learning recall healing, and had gotten a master's degree using recall healing as my thesis. But then when I did my PhD, it was like adding to this tool belt that I'd already been given ways to deepen my own walk. Imagery was so powerful and is so powerful. And people think, oh, I'm not good at imagery. Well, we imagine every single day. We're laying in bed thinking about what we need to get at the market. We're, and you can even walk down the aisle and pick up the lemons, or go down and get the milk or the butter or whatever you need. We're imagining every single day. And so I realized what a powerful tool. And then scientifically, it shows that brain to brain, if I have an intention and I'm here, that and somebody is in the other room and I'm thinking about that person, that it will light up their brain. And there's been research to show how this.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. So brain to brain, we're all connected. So, and then energy medicine and food as medicine, and learning mind body skills of indigenous practices such as shaking and dancing. It's like, it's so important, so primal, so foundational to being able to heal. And we're not given these tools. We don't know these tools. And so as I have learned these tools and to help other people, so I'll walk people through different things, and and everything is an opportunity to bring to the surface more. Just like last week in Texas of not having any electricity. And so we can talk about that in a little bit, but it was truly an opportunity for me to do more work. And so that's our daily life gives us what we need. And if you know simple tools like using the timeline, understanding our family tree, understanding what happened before we were born, then everything that a person knows, everything that you've had on your show, all the tools, you incorporate all of those things, and that becomes the things that you use. So it's different for everybody. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. And so I'm happy to share about how I do it and what I teach. But that's sort of the long and short of it. But it's been so amazing to see how I can make a connection. I can do a little bit of work, and then my kids transform, or my kids don't have to go through some of the same things. Although we all have our own purpose, and sometimes we do see our kids go through hard times.
Yeah.
And so we can continue to do our work, but we also, it's all about surrendering, letting go, honoring it, loving ourselves, and sort of moving on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those of you who have any questions, like I said, type in a queue, write those questions in. And when we have the opportunity, we'll ask your question. Many people say, oh, get rid of the theme song. Why are you dancing? That's so ridiculous. And I'm here to tell you, dance can transform a person like that.
That's one of my tools. I took a whole training on, it's called journey dancing, and it's amazing. You can do a whole entire workshop on dancing and processing all of the things. So my goal, like I haven't done it in a while, but my goal is to have like journey dance class and do a whole retreat on journey dancing, because it's fantastic.
It is. Well, as you know, I just started the I Am the Solution, the New Truth series, I Am the Solution, and you better believe that there's some dancing there. Nice. And it's interesting how people are like so self-conscious, and it gets them out of that. It gets you out of that. And so, I always say that if you're having a really downtime and you just don't know how to get out of it, turn on your favorite song and dance it through. I'm not saying ignore the feeling, but I am saying that puts you in the moment. That puts you in the moment. I had a comment that was made at one time and about, our future. And, we've talked with Dr. Day, we talked about with other people about how there is now a CPT code that is guillotine. It's like beheading. There's a CPT code for beheading now. And it's an ICD-10 code. And so I had someone say, well, I'm so worried I'm going to get beheaded. And I said, well, you still have your head on now. Now you still have your head. Why worry about what's going on in the future? Because we don't know, right? We don't know. So right now we dance. Right now we dance. And so I want to explain for those of you who are new to the classroom, if you're like, oh, I can't stand that theme song. Hey, listen, it was written for me. And I get to share it with all of you. I'm very proud of it. And dance is such an incredible, powerful tool to get you in the moment. Because if you're depressed, you're living in the past. And if you're anxious, you're living in the future. The now is what we have. Can you add anything to that, Dr. Michelle?
Absolutely. And I would also say, if you put your favorite song on, then you should also sing, because energetically you're raising your vibration and you can't stay in that place. So when you get into gratitude and you're dancing and you're moving your body, first of all, it's that age old, shake it off. Well, when you're dancing, you're shaking it off. You're literally releasing the cellular makeup of that's holding on to grudge or anger or frustration. And you're getting into the here and now, like you said, and it's just one step at a time. And so breathing and staying in that moment. And you're absolutely right about that whole, when you're in worry, fear and worry, you're in the future. So bring yourself back into this moment, into this day, into this second. Sometimes we have to say, okay, I have this 30 seconds. I can do it for 30 seconds. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'm going to disclose that prior to going on the air today, we had a lot of technical issues, right?
Absolutely.
But once we started dancing, those technical issues were gone, right? Yeah. They didn't, because we could carry them. Some people carry those technical issues with them for the rest of their day. But we did a dance off. It's gone, right?
It's gone. It's done.
It is gone. Okay. So we got rid of that trauma. Okay. So here we go. As you know, Bradley Nelson, Emotion Code, he was on. I texted you prior to having him on in the classroom, because I thought, I value your opinion. And you said, hey, yeah, for real. He's a good guy. So he got him on in the classroom and he blew me away. But one of the things that he did with me, Dr. Michelle, is that he tested me from afar, and he did this thing, the muscle testing, but with the fingers on me. And he was like rattling it off. And there was nothing in my body that was trapped from me. But everything he found was my ancestry. My mom, he went back 1,500 years that I was carrying this stuff. And so that night I had an awakening that I've not shared this in the classroom. I'm sharing this with you, Dr. Michelle, and all of you. I realized that if he could do that from afar, I can demand it now for me. And maybe I'm off, but this is what my intuition and my gut told me. That if I'm carrying all these people with me, and I don't even know what is causing, issues, that I am going to make a conscious decision to just release all of it. Because I didn't know, if it was this emotion, that emotion, this emotion, that emotion, that person. To me, does it really matter? What if I make a choice to release it and say, God, you're in control. I know you know what's in me. Take it all, because I am wanting to give it away. Is there a time where people don't want to give it away, or am I just like rattling on and not making sense?
So you totally make sense. Absolutely. And I wish that it were that simple.
But for me, it was. For me, it was something that I wanted to do, and it has been freeing, but that's something I did. So tell me more about what you think.
So it's wonderful. And we really can make choices. And I would also say, because it's a part of our cellular makeup, it's what is in the messages in our DNA, that it's not what we want. It's what we need that appears in our life. So sometimes we can do this ritual. You can totally make the choice. I'm not going to carry it anymore. And when you go along in your life and something shows up, you can say, wait a minute, is this something that is mine? Or is this another ancestral pattern that is showing up Let me do a little bit more work around that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right for sure. And I think that there's more also because
Sure.
it's not our choice. Like nobody would choose to live out these patterns. No way. But it happens because it's part of the good, the bad, and the indifferent that is imprinted into our makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that was in that night, I said to Robert, I said, I'm releasing them all because I had this opportunity with Bradley Nelson, and it was all about my answer. Now, here's where I say it's too easy, right? When it's my own, when it's the divorce, or when it's the lack of money, or the lack of thinking, or my ex-husband or my husband or my children, when I am carrying resentment and anger and I know it, or maybe I'm refusing to learn it, I'm refusing to accept it, but I know this is my stuff that I refuse to deal with. And we know if we allow ourselves to really sit with it, we know it's ours. Maybe we don't know it's ours, but if we think it's ours, then that's when I totally believe on going through the 4 questions of responsibility, recall healing, emotion code, whatever it is that how many different ways can we release? Because I know you're an emotion code expert. You're a world renowned, not emotional code, recall healing expert. Sorry about that. I misspoke. You're world renowned. Right now, you're working with all around the country and the world. And so with that is your specialty, but you also have acquired other tools that you've researched because you're that good. You want to see other different tools. How many different ways can somebody say, I am ready? What's the mindset that makes recall healing work, emotion code work, German new medicine work? What is the mindset that we must have in order for this to work?
that's a really loaded question. Okay. Because sometimes it is because of our willingness that it does work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a great story. Okay. So
Awesome.
because I work abroad, I have translators. And the first guy that I worked with in Ukraine, and I work with him frequently now. And on the first workshop, he said, I don't believe this stuff at all. And so, like, it's just whatever, I said, great, just do your job. You don't have to believe it, but just be here and do what you need to do. So this guy, this is now maybe 3 years later now. I'm trying to remember exactly when I went. And so every time that we have worked together, there's been something that has unfolded. So he was always late. And so finally I said, dude, do you want me to fire you? I like you. I don't want to have to fire you. You have to be on time. I'm here. They're here. I need you. Are you coming or not? So one day he's late and I turned to him and I was like, were you born late? And he's like, yeah, actually I was. And I said, well, you don't have to be late anymore. That power actually did help him to begin to transform, because now it's in his awareness. Most of the time we carry things and you can think that it's yours, okay? But it may not be rooted from you. It may be a part of what happened before we're born, or with our ancestors, or who we line up with, or who we're named for. And that's why it's showing up. He existed, okay, because he was late. He came late. So in order to exist in his life, he has to show up late. So the next time I saw him, and then we were working and we were doing recall healing, I think it was level 2, and we're talking about depression. And he said, he said, I almost couldn't make it through this time. He said, what you said, he said, after our first time, he said, I actually had such a severe depression that I ended up in the hospital. And he said, but what you said about an ancestor dying of a heart attack from above that can produce depression in the next generation is totally true. My grandfather died of a heart attack. And so when you said that, he said, I could hardly even think. I was like sweating. I turned red. So then the next time we met, something happened and he made a connection about his daughter. And interestingly, he had a hair lip and a cleft palate when he was born, which means I can't catch the morsel, mama. I can't get, and they were from Ukraine and there wasn't enough food. It was during the 80s and it was a bad time. And so the child always carries the unfinished business of the parents. So as a biological solution, the child carries the psychological suffering. Okay. And I'll tell you another story in a second, but
No, I love this. I love this.
but then and every time he would go to translate about this project purpose, what we call it, the 18 months before, he'd have to look at his paper because his brain would not allow him to see that. Because if our brain has used certain things, whether we think that they're good or bad, we still are alive and we exist. So it works. And that's why we keep the manifestations. That's why we can't see them clearly. And oftentimes that's why denial will show up. Denial is not a choice. Denial happens to save our life. And so then he just made a connection the other day. We were doing another workshop every time. And he's so cute because he's never been late again. Okay? He's never been late. And he told me when I did get to go last year, he said, Michelle, I have to eat my words. Recall healing is amazing. Everybody. And then he went into repair phase also on this workshop because he made some connections about his father and why he is the person that he is and how that manifested, and he's a better father to his daughter. And so that's the thing. It's not a choice. And that's why it's not always in our awareness. But what you said about like looking at it from our perspective, but when we understand that we are not the only person that has carried this from our ancestry, that everything we experience in our life today is a reflection of what our ancestors have experienced. For different reasons, same feeling. And that's what gets handed down.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And like when he was doing when he was processing me, I carry a lot of my mom in me. And I knew, and this is like, and then there was a side of my father's side too, that needed to be, but there's a lot of things that I know that keep showing up in my life. But it seemed like it was all ancestry related. So that awareness that, in our conversations that you and I have had, I'm thinking, do we give up our power so quickly that we say, I don't have any power to get rid of these people. And your work is saying, yes, you can, you can identify it. And like I say, if it's my stuff, then I need to work at it so that the next generation doesn't have it, But if it's something that is beyond me and I don't know where it's coming from, can I make that choice? Can I say, I want to just release it all. God, you take it. There's no room in my body for it. I don't need it anymore. Just like when I had melasma on my face, I had it really, really, really bad. I mean, it started at the age of 40 and I had brown spots here. People thought I wore a lot of, like I would have these patches. And so I remember learning that melasma served a purpose because I felt ugly. My whole life, I felt ugly. And when I was aware that melasma was serving a purpose to keeping me like self-conscious or feeling ugly that I brought from my childhood, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, thank you for serving me, but I don't need you anymore. You can go now. And little by little, Yeah, I made better products with, choices with products, for my skin. I learned about other things that, so that choice that I made me make other choices that were allowing me to clear out my skin too,
Absolutely.
But prior to that, nothing worked.
Well, and that's the thing, right? When we don't have an understanding, and so that feeling of ugliness, and anytime we have a discoloration, it's feeling soiled, feeling less than, needing to hide behind, so I don't feel comfortable in the world. So my brain gives me something so that I can hide out.
Mm-hmm.
So what you did was so perfect. And, Dr. Bradley Nelson's work is so beautiful. And so sometimes you can go just straight to the emotion, and that's what his work does. And so I have used and have taken classes and do really,
Yeah.
okay. And there is aspects, and it's so cool when you can release an emotion from an animal, like our dogs, our cats. And that is like, I have helped so many animals using emotion code, including my own dog. It's like the greatest. I had this big deal that happened in the summer where I felt so it took me a while to walk through it, and it was hard. So I came home, and it had been in California. I came home and my dog was acting so sick and sort of depressed. And my husband said, he might need some emotion code. And I was like, whatever. So like 2 weeks later, he's still acting that way. He's vomiting. He's like, there's something, I was getting ready to take him to the vet. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, let me just do emotion code. So I literally, and I've done it enough on him, I'll say, Odie, do you want some emotion code? He literally, this time he came and he sat right in front of me.
Wow.
And it's like they know. I released 2 emotions from him, feeling lost and feeling betrayed, which is exactly how I felt. And he trotted off. He went and ate his meal. He went outside and got his ball. It was time to play. And that's how we have a tendency to get into our head, but it really is that simple to be able to release some things. And many, many times we're not aware. The reason why we get sick is that we really aren't aware of how much we've tried to brush it under the carpet, how much it's there, but we're not able to process it.
Yes. So am I understanding that you just said that your emotions transferred onto the dog and the dog trapped them? I believe that too. I believe that now they're giving medication for depression and anxiety for their animals too. And I'm thinking, please leave them alone. They do not need that. They just need for their owners to deal with whatever it is that they need to deal with. So, so good for you that you got Odie out of this depression. So what else do we need to know? Make somebody aware. What are other things that you can tell us that will encourage someone to have the mindset to want to do some of this work?
So the thing is that, the simple question is, are you enjoying your life? Are you at peace? Do you have unforgiveness? Do you have anger or grudge? Do you have dissatisfaction? Are you happy in your marriage? Are you happy in your work? Are your kids happy? Are they functioning well? Those are all questions. If you are not at peace with any or all of those areas, there's an opportunity and you're being given a choice. Are you going to say yes, or are you going to say no? If you say no, then you stay in that nonsense. You stay with those feelings. You stay with the dissatisfaction. If you say yes, I'm never going to tell you that it's an easy journey. And yet it's so amazing when you say yes and you just start. It's progress, not perfection. It's a little bit at a time, but things begin to shift. At first, it's little things like, what? I had a client recently who her child had been out of touch with her for about, I think it was like 5-6 years. And then she just happens to mention in the second session, I told her, talk to the picture, do some ho'oponoponos. And she just is like, yeah, I was talking to my daughter the other day. And I was like, what? Your daughter? Oh yeah, like she just called out of the blue and we just started talking. Oh yeah. No, it never happens like it's just out of the blue. It's the work that I said, did you do Ho'oponoponos? Well, yeah, I've been doing Ho'oponoponos and I talked to her picture. That's why. You cleared something, but it's ambiguous. We can't see it clearly. It's ambiguous, ambiguous, ambiguous until it's obvious. And when it's obvious, then it's like, how did I never see this before? What? That is crazy. So that's, that's how it works.
Okay. So is there, because I asked about the mindset of wanting to release it and just like wanting to get it go. But is there a time where people just do not, because they find comfort, they don't want to get out of their comfort zone and they just want to stay there? Like you said, you don't have to say yes, you can say no. But is there a subconscious kind of like not allowing you to want to release it? And I will give you an example. And this is a physical example. A long time ago, I was the marketing director at a home health company. And I used to go out to 50 plus communities and I would help them. And there was this woman, I kid you not, Dr. Michelle, she had a goiter that was this big,
Wow.
just this big. And she was probably in her late 70s, early 80s, very well poised, but it was almost like the size of a head. And so she was in a lot of pain. And so I know, and at the time I didn't know about nutrition as much as I do now, but I knew that there were certain things that she could do to eliminate that. Mm-hmm. So I said to her, I know you're in a lot of pain, but have you thought of doing something to reduce the size of your goiter? And she petted her chin or her goiter. And she said, but it's my friend. She was such a great teacher at that moment, mm-hmm. that we become comfortable with our misery, mm-hmm. and we don't know how to release it. Mm-mm. So what can you say to that mindset? Why would somebody not want to release something from their past, from their ancestry, from their current situation, and act like they have no power?
Like it just happened to them and that's the reason why.
They just got the wrong end of the deal of the cards.
Yes. Like that's what we've been made to believe, that everything and cancer, it just shows up in our body because
it just happens.
It just happens. It never works that way. And so people that, first of all, like I might say in that moment, I would do a Ho'oponopono. And I would say in my own mind, I would say, oh, I'm so sorry for whatever's in me that would cause her to be so blocked, and that would be her friend. On one hand, it's good because she's not in a fight with it. On the other hand, it's not so great because it's going to hang out because the brain thinks that it needs it to remain.
Just like my patches. That's right.
Exactly. And so to understand, and so our brain so I'll be teaching a class and that I'll be getting ready to do the subject that this particular person has, and their brain, before it even happens, their brain will say, you have to go to the bathroom. Oh, you're really hungry right now. You need some food. Because
escape.
Yes, really, it's about energy, not proximity. Okay. So like what you said about Dr. Bradley doing the muscle testing from a distance, it's energy. It's not proximity. So the same thing, our brain, it will pick up on certain things because that goiter served her well. That goiter has kept her alive through circumstances. Maybe she was choked out, either symbolically or real. Okay. Maybe she had an ancestor who was hanged. Okay. There's all kinds of different reasons, and that our brain will not easily let go of what has served to keep us alive. So we have to convince our brain that we don't need it anymore. It's not what we want, it's what we need. So it's this process, like you said, slowly, the same thing that happened with weight for me. Slowly, over a period of 10 years, I eliminated 100 pounds just by becoming more aware. Oh, in my daily life, I'm in my masculine mode. Even in this last week, I gained a little bit of weight. And I thought, at first, I'm like, oh, because, this is what we do.
Fight. Yeah.
And then I said, wait a minute. I didn't have electricity. I was totally in survival mode. We're getting ready to move. Of course, my brain says, oh, you need to pack a little bit on because you feel overwhelmed. You feel like, you need this drive to get you through. And so then I could get more into a place of compassion. So the awareness is first. And then if we have these, I call them the growing edges, like we have these little edges that we may or may not like about ourselves, or they may or may not serve us. I have many, many clients that I'll say, what happens when you're completely well? Can you say no? Because I'll know like that they don't want to do certain things. Well, that illness is a secondary gain to stay ill so that they have this excuse so that they don't have to do what they don't want to do.
Exactly. It's that fear. It's fear that's driving them, not love.
Absolutely. And so when we understand those kinds of things and we pray, like my prayer, especially if I'm really in resistance, then I'll know like, wow, this is a pattern that has served me for a long time. It's not always easy to let go. I can ask, do I have some emotions? Do I have beliefs, secret beliefs? You and I have talked about these beliefs that sort of drive us also. Is this mine? Is this my mom's? Is this something that I have? And so it's really about asking questions and to deepen. And then I'll say a prayer, pray for the willingness to be willing to do what I need to do. Please, God, in this moment, I don't have a lot of willingness. So can you help me in this moment? And then I might have just a little space to try a little something. And that opens the door to try it again or increase it. And so that's sort of a way, but you're right, like lots of times. And when we're more compassionate to understand, the other day I was teaching a workshop and I had a student on the workshop and she was really embarrassed because she smokes. And so she probably thought that I was going to like, sort of like, oh, why do you smoke? And instead I said to her, oh, the next time you smoke, I want you to do this. I want you to take that cigarette. I want you to put it in your hand. I want you to like really look at it, hold it up to your nose and smell it, put it in your mouth and taste it. I said, really get into that cigarette because that cigarette actually has kept you alive. And do you know what it helps you to do? She said, no. I said, breathe.
Breathe.
You're just taking a breath. It also might give you an opportunity because most of the places in the world now, you can't smoke indoors. So you have to walk outside. So it gives you some space to go and smoke outside.
Brilliant.
And smoking, you don't have to see the reality. You don't have to see the pain of what you're experiencing. So when we villainize whatever that is, whether it's cigarettes or alcohol or food or whatever, work even, when we villainize it, then it becomes the thing that we fight against. Mm-hmm. When we embrace it, when we honor it, when we understand why it came and what it's serving us, then we can let it go.
Amazing. And did she do that? Because I learned too that people who smoke, they just need to breathe. They just need to breathe. That's how they, and so did she go out there and she actually had the cigarette? How did that end?
Well, I had like 200 people on my workshop, so I'm not really sure how it ended, but I think she really got it.
But isn't that great?
She cried. It was like, for the first time, she didn't hear somebody saying, you're going to die because you're smoking, which also is actually not true. It's the fear of death of a reason why a person would get a lung cancer. So when people are bombarding them with these messages, and then they have this secret belief, yes, it's a toxin and it's not so great, and especially with what they put in the cigarettes now, that's to be more aware of it. But the truth is that served them well. That's kept them alive.
I love that. I love that. So let's go to the belief. I mean, let's go to belief because I've interviewed Bruce Lipton and he is phenomenal. And we talked about the placebo, the nocebo, and that belief that she had, that belief that a new belief that you planted, because we have these beliefs that are planted that served us when we were little, but as we get older, they don't serve us anymore. And that's why I call my series New Truths, because that's what we learn here in the classroom, are new truths. Does it support me now? Does it not support me now? And that's what I use when I'm coaching people. You know, what worked for you then may not work for you now. But let's talk about the rewriting the belief, or let's talk about beliefs and what that does physiologically to us or emotionally to us, how beliefs are important and how can they be rewritten?
So I love that question, and it's very true. And so the first thing is always awareness. Okay. And so an example that was super powerful for me is that I was in the middle or at the end of my doctorate, and I had done all my research and everything was sort of together, but I didn't have, I hadn't started writing. And I had finished like in January, February, March, I was like there. I had made a date for myself, July 17th, that I was going to turn this in. And in this moment, it was June 1st. And I'm like, shoot, what am I going to do? And knowing what I know, then it came in, wait a minute, do I have a secret belief that I can't do it? Oh, I do. I have a secret belief. It's like, it just so resonated. This is where Byron Katie's 4 questions come in, and they're amazing. And so the first question is that true? So I asked myself, is it true that I can't finish? I've written hundreds of papers in my academic career. So no, it's not true. Then, is it absolutely true? No, it's not. I'm here for a reason. God put me here. Then the third question is, what happens when I believe that thought? Well, I go down the rabbit hole. Oh, you're not good enough. And what's wrong with you? You're not smart enough. Oh, that person is way smarter than you. And turn it around. Where would I be without that thought? And so that day I prayed, please, Lord, give me the willingness to be willing to just do a little bit of work today. Well, guess what? I turned in my dissertation on July 17th. And sure, I had some things to shift and change, but I finished in the next 2 months. And so it really, and that's a way to begin to reframe. And really, we change the perception and you change everything. When you change the perception, 100% of everything is about perception. Mm-hmm. And when you change that, you give yourself an opportunity to transform right before your eyes.
Absolutely. I heard what Dr. Wayne Dyer many years ago, and he used to say, I don't remember where I heard it, but this is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That was the start of like, wow, there's this side of my hand, but there's this other side of my hand. It's like, okay, this is a backside. There's a different perspective. And I wrote an article on it, and I actually quoted Max Planck because he was the one who originally said it was Max Planck. I wanted to figure out who was the one with the original thought. I love to give people credit for the original thoughts. Absolutely. Not like Wayne Dyer, who used to take everybody's thoughts and make, I don't remember, but anyway, and so when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I love those questions that you just shared because it gives us the power to take it back. That is my passion. That is the passion that I have, because for many years, Dr. Michelle, I gave my power away to everybody. And I recognize it in others because I had it in me. You see in others who you are. And so if you're finding yourselves like people poking you in the eye and you don't like what they're saying, like I always talk about Dr. Lorraine Day, you know, she poked me in the eye, but she woke me up. I didn't like what she was saying because it just, I couldn't, I was angry with it because I was lied to. We have been lied to. But what made me curious to these lies is that we are all one. What I see in you, you see in me, and this is all an illusion. And it made me curious to say, okay, what else should I learn? Like you said that. Can you say that again? Lord, give me the willingness to be willing. Is that what you say?
I did.
I love that. I love that, because there's sometimes we don't want to do that.
No.
We just need to be willing. And that's what I asked that question. Are you willing to consider it?
Exactly.
Are you willing to consider it? Instead of being critical, be curious. And so those are the things that we can do to make us be willing, because that's what today's about, is that mindset that makes us hold on to, and it's the shackles that I talked about last week that keep us bound. And what we can do. But before we go on, because we only have 5 minutes for the podcast, I want to tell you all to please go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe. As you know, the algorithms are really garbling up the classroom. And so the only way that you can help me out, well, not only financially, if you want to donate to the classroom, if you're looking at someplace to donate because you want to tithe, donate to the classroom and help us grow the classroom. But check out my sponsors. I'm just so excited. I am building muscle with B3 Bands, and I am thrilled. So go check out my sponsors, B3 Bands. We're Brain Tap, and you've tried Brain Tap, which you absolutely love, and Avasia, which is microcurrent. We also have Keep Me Safe Organics, which you love, Keep Me Safe Organics, and First Alternative Care Telemedicine, the pharmacy in Merritt Island. Please, please, please. He's taking medications and he's putting it topically. So if you don't want to take a pill, and you don't want to take responsibility, or maybe you're in that process of taking responsibility, topical won't go through your body the way that an oral pill will do. So go to check out the pharmacy in Merritt Island, and now he's doing compounds from all over the place. We have Right Way Health and Wellness, and Dr. Jennifer Gramath is coming on Thursday. First Alternative Therapies, Avasia, and all that. So check out my sponsors, figure out a way to support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. And of course, Dr. Michelle, you can find her at soultreetransformations.com and Facebook and all those other, you could, if you go to if you are a subscriber and you like me and you follow me, you're getting a blog every Sunday that gives you all the teachers, so you have her contact information. And again, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. You can donate $1, you can donate $1,000 a month, but you can help out with time, talent, and treasure. Figure out ways that you can help. It's your part, because this is our classroom, not just mine. So I am so grateful to Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. She is unbelievable. I have so loved this conversation because we have given our power away, Dr. Michelle. We have given our power away. And I love how you're saying, I want the willingness to take my life back. And look at what happens when we say yes to that. Would you like to add anything to that? We have 2 minutes for the podcast, and then we're going to, if you guys have any questions, we'll answer those in the Teacher's Pet Corner. So what can you say if somebody were to walk in today and say, Dr. Michelle, what is going on here? What are we talking about today? What would you say?
What would I say?
What would be the overall theme? What catch them? Well, your elevator speech for today's talk.
Okay, so you do have power. And you really do carry unfinished business of your ancestors. And when you bring those things into the awareness, you give yourself the power to heal, to transform. You really, like for me, that's where free will does come in. Before we say, oh, you're born with free will, really, you're born with so much unfinished business that it takes your life to get you to where you are today.
Mhm.
And so when you begin to understand where these patterns have come from, and then it's in your awareness, and then what you do with that awareness can then transform, change the talk, change the perception, and you change your reality. It really is that. And I wish I remembered exactly what you said, but that it is really that true.
Yeah,
So,
I know. When you change the way you look at things, the things
yeah,
you look at
everything's gonna
change.
change,
Max
exactly.
Planck, Max Planck.
Max
Okay, so, but I heard it from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Okay, so with that in mind, Dr. Michelle, really quickly, Ho'oponopono, because I love, that was life-changing.
So Ho'oponopono is life-changing for me too. It's where you take 100% responsibility, 100% for whatever shows up in your life. It's not your fault. Okay, so let's just be clear about that. So you're not apologizing for something that you did. We're not talking the physical world. We're talking about our divine connection with the whole. And when you take responsibility for pain that you see that shows up in your life, you're literally cleansing it to make right. So we say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. You connect yourself with that hurt, that anger, whatever you're feeling for the situation. I'm so sorry for whatever reason this is showing up. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And you give yourself the opportunity. What I see is that it really releases us from those shackles so that we can live more freely in our world with what our divine purpose is about.
I love that. I love that. I didn't know if you were going to take longer, so I asked Robert to give me 3 extra minutes. But
okay.
it's like so if you
have this.
so he's now giving us 2 minutes. Is there anything else you want? You were good. You were good. You did that Ho'oponopono in 1 minute. That was awesome. Is there anything more that you'd like to elaborate with Ho'oponopono? Because that will help us transform relationships from afar. You're not telling the person this, but your energy is sharing it with them. Would you like to share a little bit?
Yeah, so it is a prayer. It's the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, but basically it's the way I think that it's different than traditional prayer is that for traditional prayer, you're praying for somebody else or you're asking or you're praying for yourself, right? With Ho'oponopono, you're literally connecting yourself with this situation and realizing that there's a part of you that there's a reason that this is showing up. And whether it's you, your ancestors, we don't know exactly where it's coming from, but if you experience it, your ancestors have experienced it. And so when you take responsibility for it, it gives it the opportunity to stop and to be done with that pattern. But it has transformed my life seriously in ways that other modalities have not. It is really divine.
So you bring somebody's, if there's something that is going on and brewing on with somebody, maybe you don't like the way the relationship is, you start visualizing them in your mind's eye, maybe the situation, maybe you want to improve the situation, maybe you want to forgive somebody. And those words are, I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
And sometimes we're not ready to forgive and we're still angry. So I would say even get in touch with that. I'm sorry for whatever reason that this is causing this anger to show up in my life. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Even that gives the opportunity. And that can be transforming as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will tell you guys a story about my closing signature. I've said it from the beginning, and I will tell you when we're in our teacher's pet corner, but I am just so grateful, Dr. Michelle, whenever you come onto the classroom, we learn so much. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you so much. It's always a delight to be here.
Yes. And please share this with somebody, anyone. Let's help us grow the classroom. And please remember that we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. That's the best ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
This is wonderful. This is the self-evaluation that we have got to do. It's an examination of conscience. That as a Catholic, that was, a former Catholic, that was what was taught to me, that examination of conscience. But do we really go deep enough to truly examine the conscience? Our conscious mind, our past, the things that we do that we don't see in ourselves, but that we see in others, because what you see in others is who you are. And, we see the speck in our neighbor's eye, but we have this huge plank in ours that we're going, let me look at, it's like, yeah. And I love that analogy with the smoke. And like with the cigarette smoking with it, you did that. You gave her permission to do that examination of conscience on herself to say, why are you really doing this? Mm-hmm. And that's the place where we all need to gather and say, why am I really doing this? And give ourselves permission to answer that question. And so when you were talking about, and by the way, for those of you who have questions, now's the time. Type in a Q, write the question. And when can you have someone as talented as Dr. Michelle in the classroom so that you can ask questions for her? Because she does workshops. And by the way, when's your next workshop? Are you going to open it to the public or?
Yeah, the next workshop for the United States is the weekend of March 20. Let me double check on the actual time so I give it to you correctly.
Okay.
March 25th, 26th, and 27th. It's a foundational recall healing. It's level 2. Okay. But we always, in the first levels, level 1, 2, and 3, we always go over the basics, but it's a matter of what we cover in terms of body parts and illnesses. And so in level 2, we cover weight, we cover diabetes, we'll cover hypoglycemia, eyes, the structure of the body. And so you get a lot of insight. And then I take whoever is on my workshop, I curtail it so that every person gets something from the workshop in a bigger way.
Okay, that's March 25th. And so can they go to Soul Tree Transformations to learn more?
Or recallhealingusa.com. That's where we put the workshops on. And then they can also call, and it is on Facebook too. So it's there, but they can give us a call.
Very good. Very good. So I want to share a story that I believe that I may have already had the radio. This was at the beginning of the radio show with WMEL. And I was just talking to John Harper, and John Harper was the one that interviewed me the first time and said, offered me an opportunity to be on the radio. And so I was just talking to him a little while ago, just saying, so thank you. I mean, this opportunity changed my life, saved my life, because I was so right about my beliefs, and they weren't supporting me. Yeah. They supported me as a child, but didn't support me as an adult anymore. And sometimes you just need to change it a little, just like that shake that you talk about. So during this, I was doing a lot of, I own a business, a marketing company, and I tell that story of how that business started, and I'm not going to go into it at that point, but I was hired, and there was something that was a part of my life where someone I trusted basically betrayed me. And this person was someone that is close to me. You just can't divorce them. It's it's not somebody that you can say, oh, fine, off you go. I will never be a part of this. And it was a teachable moment on forgiveness and lack of forgiveness. And I am very quick. My mom taught me to be quick to forgive And my mom and I would get into these little arguments, and then we just like be like, oh, I'm sorry, that type of, we didn't even have to say we're sorry. We just would continue on as, it's no big deal. That was the relationship I had with my mom. And so we would forgive each other really quickly. And so our relationship was always so good. But forgiving was easy for me. Forgiving was easy for me. And I don't know if this is something that is ancestral or what, but all I know is at this moment, I was unwilling to forgive. And this person just basically didn't take any ownership for what they did. And it was really affecting me. And I didn't realize that it was affecting me. I was beginning to get sick. I was beginning to, there were so many things that were happening. And then all of a sudden, I realized that because I had started doing some work on myself. I started doing, this is the same work that I went back for to become a life coach on. And then I realized that I needed to forgive, because that was what was causing me to just implode. I was imploding my health. I couldn't sleep at night. I was angry. I was irritable. And so I was reading a book that called me out and showed me that I needed to forgive. And even if I didn't feel it at the time, that my body would honor whatever it is I wanted. So I started wishing them love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance, because the person had taken from me. So, it's like, so I started, so at first you reminded me of that when you were like going, oh, peace, love, joy, unexpected abundance. And then it became truly, because it was releasing me in a way I didn't know how to forgive something, because it was really, really tough. It wasn't as simple as my mom, like going back and forth, talking. This was really a very teachable moment for me. And God was saying to me, I'm going to teach you how to forgive, how to truly, really, truly forgive. Because people think that if forgive, that it basically condones the behavior.
Right.
And that's trust. Trust and forgiveness are two totally different things. So I know the difference. And so I chose to forgive. And I remember moving forward, because that person didn't want to have anything to do with me. We found ourselves in a situation where we were there. And I knew that person was going to be there. So I prepared myself. And I knew that person was avoiding me, but I was going to avoid them. So I went up to them. I hugged them. I kissed them. I loved them. That doesn't mean I trust them,
Right.
but at least it set me free.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you want to, because when you said that, it just reminded me of why I say that now is how I say goodbye. That's my signature on my emails. That's the way I live my life.
Yeah. And it's so true. Like and especially in Christian theology and all of the religions of the world, they teach about forgiveness. But what I also began to understand is that forgiveness is a process, number one. And number two, so many people will say, oh, I forgave them. Okay. But the truth is you still have all this anger that you never walked through.
That's right.
So you have to, because we're taught you need to forgive, you need to turn the other cheek, you need to keep going. But the truth is, it's hard when we've been hurt, when we've been wounded, when we've been violated or betrayed or whatever. So giving yourself permission first to be angry and yell and scream and do what you need to do is okay. It's healthy. And then you work to a place where you see them as a wounded little boy or little girl. That will make it easier to get to that place of peace and ultimately forgiveness. But that reminded me of that. It's like we want to, and we know that that's in our best interest. And sometimes I'll tell people, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you, because the other person does not exist for our brain. For our brain, it only has itself to work with. So it will download it into our body according to our felt experience. So when you're forgiving, you're not forgiving for them, you're forgiving for you. And so that you can be in a different place. And that ends up transforming your body. So we act as if until it becomes our reality.
Mm-hmm. You know, the world says fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
And I have a new way of believing. I say, think it until you believe it, and
I
then
love
do
that.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, because, you know, fake it till you make it is disgenuine. It's not, it's disingenuous.
Well,
And
that's why I say act as if.
yes, act as if. Yes.
If. So when you know, and this is another way to be able to act as if, when you don't have that behavior for yourself and you know other people that do, borrow from them. How might they behave or how might they have reacted?
Beautiful.
And you can hear your mentors speak to you and you act as if, and it feels funky. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like your body is like, what? This is not, until it becomes a part of who you are and you transform your neural pathways. That is what you're doing. And so act as if until it becomes your reality.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Basically, we're saying, you know, the same thing. Think it, because first it's a thought, then it's a feeling, then it's an action. And I love how you said that your brain doesn't know it's someone else.
Mhm.
That is a new dimension to, I'm going to, if you don't mind, I will add that to my I Am the Solution, because we go through this transformation process of breaking through and doing that examination of conscience so that we can release ourselves, you know, from all that's trapped into us. Because if you know, people say they don't deserve forgiveness. It might be true in the world's view.
Absolutely.
But in a heavenly view, in a God view, in the eyes of God, you know, this is part of our growth.
Yeah. I had a client that was severely sexually abused. And I had taught her, and we had gone through the whole session. And at the end of the session, she was like, oh, just really chill. Okay, Michelle, everything sounds good except one thing. And I said, yes. And she said, I will never forgive my perpetrator. So then I'm thinking, oh no, think on your feet, think on your feet. So then I said, okay, that totally makes sense. And we're not excusing his behavior or your parents for condoning it or any of that. And somehow we have to help you find a place of peace, come to a place of peace. So let's start there. And it's so beautiful because a year later, we worked together for about 10 sessions, I think it was. And then a year later, she comes and she says, you know what? I have something to share with you. And I said, yes. And she said, I think I've forgiven him. And it was so beautiful to know, like, when you just practice the tools, it may be completely uncomfortable, completely out of our use what we're used to. It feels funky. It feels not right. And do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Because that gives you a whole new opportunity to have something different show up in your life.
Yeah, yeah. I actually have that poem right here.
Oh, that's so cool. I love how
Yeah.
we just bounce back off each
We
other.
do. You want me to read it?
Yeah, sure.
People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. I love this poem. And
Mm.
I hope that if you heard it for the first time, I believe this is a version that, or a version that Mother Teresa had in her office. And when the first time I heard that, I thought, I need to have that so I can always have access to it, because we need to do it anyway. Whether we want to do it, we don't want to do it, but there are baby steps. And I love your process with, recall healing, and how you help people. You give them, you help them take their power back. You give them permission to take their power back. Does that sound so insane that anybody would have to be given permission to take their power back? But we've given it away.
But oftentimes that is rooted in our project purpose. That time that before we're even born, if we're not planned, if our parents get pregnant with us by accident, it is a setup for being codependent, for being walked all over, for not speaking our truth, because we spend the rest of our life trying to prove our existence. And so being nice and not making trouble and doing those kinds of things. So we have to reframe even that message that we were a mistake. Because if we're here and we are living, God intended us to be here.
That's right.
And so that is the moment that we begin to say, because my circumstances of how I came into the world, I carried a lot of guilt and shame for much of my life. I was 45 years old before I actually said, wait a minute, that's my mom and dad's story.
That's right.
I'm supposed to be here. God really did create. If for no other reason they got together, is to bring me into the world.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I'm pretty special.
That's right. That's right. Listen,
You change it and you change everything.
and when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Isn't it amazing?
It is.
And I also say, Romans 8 has been, a scripture that I always go to, the whole Romans 8. Well, of course, we know God works out for the good of all who love him. So I always say, okay, if that's true, and I believe in God's word, if God works things out for the good of all, that means me too, you too. And when you think that everything has purpose and that everything's going to serve me, if I look through it through those eyes, it is life-changing. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Absolutely.
But it's that willingness to be willing.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
And we can even say, and that willingness to be willing, because it's all of that. And it's this. So in this moment, I'm a little afraid and I'm going to do it anyway. But I'm going to pray, and I'm going to pray that God gives me that. And sometimes we'll be given a mentor. Sometimes we'll be given like a little, meme or a poem or something, or an animal crosses our path. That's God telling us, don't worry, I got your back.
Yeah.
I got your six. That's like a military term that says, I got your back. Mm-hmm. I got your six, Lily. Okay. So you can count on me.
Yes. And so, And so you look at the clock. I love that. So, there are so many different ways to say what you want to say and have the same meaning. It's the intention by which we get started. And I learned a long time ago that your intention produces results. And if you're upset about your results, it's time to look at what is your true belief of your intention. It is so important that we do this examination, that we give ourselves this freedom to say, I believe in me so much. Feel the feeling, but don't let it sit there. Mm-hmm. Don't let it sit there. Let it go through you, but take advantage of that time to feel it. But it's up to us to decide, because we know we have the tools. There's a reason why you're watching this today. I know that there's some of you that have made comments, and I want to honor them. And for those of you who are watching, I want to hear where you're from. I want to see where you're from. Let me know. And thank you for your comments if you have any questions. So Gustavo Rodriguez, I don't know if you know him. He says, I appreciate you, Lily and Michelle, for this topic. Do you know Gustavo?
I do. Hey,
so you have your loving fans here. What about Kim? Kim, I'm not even going to try. Tigroten.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Yes, you got your fan club here.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for your encouragement. She said, this is such great information. I have learned how to let go to so many emotions that I do not need to be overwhelmed by.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And we have Jessie saying, hello, beautiful ladies. And thank you, Jessie, for that. And we have Gustavo again. He's from California, Bay Area, Oakland, California. So grateful that you guys are tuning in today. Let me check what's going on YouTube. So all of you on YouTube, you can ask questions too. This is, I think that sometimes we get so caught up in the action of whatever it is that we want to do, whatever it's releasing or whatever it is, that if we forget that when we climb a mountain, we don't start at the top of the mountain. We actually start by buying some hiking boots. That's how I started when I went on a backpacking. I had never done that before. And my yes was greater than my fear. I hung up that phone after I was invited to go backpacking in California, and I remember and anyway, I had never, staying in a tent overnight with no bathrooms. I mean, I've stayed in a tent before, but bathrooms were like right there. And when I hung up the phone, because we were gonna hike the mountain, and it's something flats. It'll come to me because I remember everything, Michelle. I remember everything. But anyway, so I remember hanging up the phone and saying to Robert, I am flying to California and we're going to go on an adventure, and I'm going to go backpacking. And after I said that out loud, I'm like, what, am I insane? But I said yes. And when you commit to the commitment of yes, if you commit the commitment of yes, now you figure out, God's going to help you figure out just about everything to do it. And so the way I dealt with it was I researched my shoes. That was step one. And then I bought the shoes, and then I went to the gym and walked in them in my treadmill. I wasn't in that mountain. So many times we find ourselves as like that woman, that the person who said, what if I get beheaded? Well, you've got your head on right now. There's not going to be any beheading today. So we need to stop acting like we're being beheaded.
And we need to. Do you have any experience with being beheaded? Did any of your ancestors, were they beheaded? Because honestly, it's really like, and so fix that, go back, repair that, do some imagery and heal that, ho'oponopono, so that is not a possibility, because maybe that fear is coming up because she did have an ancestor that was beheaded.
That's why you are so brilliant. Yes, yes. So I'm going to, next time I speak with her, because I'm going to ask her if anyone in her past has been beheaded. She may not know, but
you may not know, but maybe that, and then maybe just give her that insight, and maybe the tool of doing ho'oponopono, and that might be able to clear that. And then just like sometimes having that awareness actually releases the fear. So I remember very clearly, like having like super scared, like overwhelming sense of breast cancer. Oh my gosh. And knowing recall healing. But then the thought came in, and I don't really know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that I had a couple of ancestors, especially grandmas, that died or at least had a breast cancer. When that came into my awareness and I gave it energy and I did some work around it, it released that doom and gloom, like that fear that was holding me, because so many times the fear will paralyze us. So when we move in to the fear, it releases the tension and it allows us to do what we need to do.
You know what, Dr. Michelle, I have to release this because, I'll work on that. When all my life, I felt I was going to die young.
So who died young? And who are you in connection?
Well, my grandfather died when I was 3, I believe. But it could be someone before them. But I always had that doom that something was going to happen to me, and I even told Robert this, that, I just felt like there's that I would die young. And I remember as I got into my 50s and I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to release that because I want to live. Once I started working on myself and once I started, going to workshops, and because when I used to read a book on personal growth, because the only books I ever read was personal growth because I was so curious about it, but it was to help others. It was to help with the speck on other people's eyes, right?
So it's so true. Like, and that's so many times. I had a person on my workshop this last time, and he said, this is the first time that I ever focused on myself. I've been taking all these workshops. I'm a therapist. I've been taking them so that I can help other people. I never did it for myself.
Yep.
And I said, well, it always begins with us, and we're only as effective as we're willing to go. So we got to do the work. We got to walk our talk. We got to pick up our, and put our big girl pants on and do what we need to do, even though it's hard and even though it's scary and it's painful. We walk right into that, and it allows us to release that tension and to be able to do that. But I would say check in, and even that thought that comes to mind, Lily, maybe there really is. And even if it feels true and you don't know, still work it from that place.
Oh,
If
no,
it feels so true, there's something there.
Yeah, but I released that. I want to focus on what I want. I want to be healthy. It's like that mantra. I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am wise, I am love. Those are things that I replace those thoughts with. And I released that thought a while ago. It just brought me to that thought. I didn't even think that could have been from my ancestry. But I used to believe that was that little shoe drop. And I always say that there was like a tiny little pinhole in my soul, in my heart. And I knew it was there. But, once the kids all graduated from high school and they were leaving the home, and I had to redefine, who am I? Who am I? And the reason why I actually did personal growth is because I was offered to do the radio show, and it was changing. And I thought, man, if I want people to grow with me, I must grow. Mm-hmm. And that was probably the first time that I really, because I had it all figured out. I had it all figured out, Dr. Michelle. I had it all figured out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially like I'm a firstborn, and firstborns are very much like that. And so it's like, oh yeah, you think you know, but whatever. No.
No, and I remember
realize how you don't know anything.
No, what I learned was I don't know what I don't know. Right. And that's where we spend most of. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. But what I don't know is where we spend most of our life. And the goal is to make what we don't know smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I want to encourage all of you to work on yourselves. Look into the Recall Healing USA for Dr. Michelle. She's got a workshop on March 25th through 27th. I have my I Am the Solution workshop April 16th through 18th. And so you can go on to whenyouneedafriend.com, check it out. Also have the Bible study with Dr. Lorraine Day, the woman who poked me in the eye and I swore I'd never have her back on my show back in 2014, is a dear friend of mine and is now, being, we did the Book of Revelation, New Truth series. She's like my beautiful shining star here. She's got 30 plus years of researching the Bible and learning, she can compare what's happening to modern day time. And so we did the Book of Revelation first, and we recorded it, and it's there for everybody to. Now we're doing a DVD. Look, Dr. Michelle, I didn't even show you this. This is the new DVD.
Awesome. Oh, yes. Right on. That's great.
Yes. And look, all 12 weeks are in here.
Awesome.
Oh, it's just, what a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing for someone who poked me in the eye and I said, I'd never have her back. She was just too gruff. I just couldn't. But if I really sat with what she said, I knew deep down inside I had been lied to. So she came back the following year, and the following year, and the following year. And then she's now like on the classroom every month. But, you know, it's these new truths that didn't support us. The truths that supported us when we were kids don't support us now. And so now we have a new truth series. And so I hope that, now we're doing the 50 lessons from the Exodus, which,
Yeah.
you know, a 3-week tour took 40 years. Talk about our life. Is that a reflection of our life?
That sounds like Gilligan's Island.
I know, a 3-hour tour. Yeah, I have sung Gilligan's Island when I said it should take 3-week tour turned into 40 years. And that was God's time to teach the Israelites. We're being taught a lot of lessons now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can recreate the wheel, or we can improve on the wheel. It's our choice. So, any final words before we say goodbye? And thank you so much, Denise, for coming on from Johnson City, Tennessee, and read Gustavo. So thank you so much for, let me check before we go, if there's any comments, okay? And so, anyway, got them all.
Okay.
Any last thoughts before we go? Any pearls?
One day at a time, one breath at a time. Love yourself, forgive yourself, and keep going so you can keep growing.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle, for everything that you do. You're amazing. I absolutely adore you. Go to soultreetransformations.com and check out what's going on with her, and Recall Healing USA if you want to be a part of the workshop on March 25th through 27th. And again, whenyouneedafriend.com. On April 16th through 18th, we're doing the I Am the Solution workshop. And so with that, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for staying with us till the bitter end. And it was a better end, actually. It was a great conversation with Dr. Michelle. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing it all over again with Geyer Wellness Group. And we're going to learn a little bit more the following day with Dr. Jennifer Gramuth, who we absolutely love, don't we?
Yes, and I'm moving closer to her, so it'll be
yes, and you're moving closer to me too.
Yes, I am. Exactly. Thank you for having
Party
me.
at the McDermott's. Party at the McDermott's.
Cool.
Okay, so we're going to say goodbye for now, and thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that something that we said triggered curiosity within you, so that you can say, how does that speak to me? So we will see you soon.